Hi everyone, welcome to the stream. I'm Alfred.
I'm Submarine.
And this is episode 126, our 27th live stream. And in it, we'll be interviewing the executive director of the Raspberry Pi Foundation in North America, Matt Richardson. So without further ado, I'll give out his bio. So Matt Richardson, he's the executive director of the Raspberry Pi Foundation North America. He's the co-author of Getting Started with Raspberry Pi and a former columnist for the Magpie and contributor to the Make magazine. You're actually in the Magpie a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
I forgot how long ago. It was like a year ago, maybe. Additionally, he's a graduate of New York University's Interactive Telecommunications program and currently an adjunct faculty member there. So without further ado, here's Matt Richardson.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Great introduction.
Thank you. It's as if it was written by somebody. So yeah, I guess we'll get right into it. So just for our viewers who may not know, I don't know how many wouldn't know, but could you tell us a bit about the Raspberry Pi Foundation, what it does, what it is, and how you came to be there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Raspberry Pi Foundation is an educational nonprofit. Our mission is to put the power of computing and digital making into the hands of people all over the world. We're best known, one of the ways we do that is what we're best known for, which is the Raspberry Pi computer, ultra low cost, super affordable computer, but high performance, full-fledged computer. That we've been shipping now for quite a few years. It's become very popular, but we also create free educational resources to use in the classroom, after school, and clubs. We have a network of after-school clubs for young people who want to learn how to code and create things with technology. And we have events where we celebrate young people who create things with technology. And we also work with educators to help them bring technology into the classroom. So there's a few of the ways that we achieve that mission as the Raspberry Pi Foundation.
Right.
Cool. And how do you get to being at the Raspberry Pi Foundation?
So I'm a maker. I loved technology since I was a young kid. I'm one of the lucky kids that my dad sat me down in front of an old IBM computer with DOS on it and taught me how to use the DOS command prompt and taught me BASIC. And I really took to it. I loved it. And I love technology. And I love creating things with technology. And so, back when the maker movement really was growing and becoming a big thing, I was working in television at the time. I really didn't, I wasn't sure about whether television was the right spot for me. And I was seeing what people were creating in the maker movement, and I thought, that's actually the kind of thing I want to do, what people are creating by blending technology and code and circuits and creating new things that didn't exist before. So I started making and creating things and putting them out into the world, making videos about it, writing up documentation. And then before I knew it, it was being published, and I was in the magazine, and I was on their YouTube channel. And at that time, I was doing a lot of stuff with Arduino and circuits and everything. But when the Raspberry Pi came out, and I saw that, I thought, there's something really cool behind this Raspberry Pi hardware, this computer, and there's a lot of cool stuff I could do with that. I got really excited about it, and I started making stuff with it. And before I knew it, I became the Raspberry Pi guy, or one of the Raspberry Pi guys out in the world, and one of the people making Raspberry Pi stuff for Make magazine, and I wrote one of the first books about it. And so it was only natural that when Raspberry Pi Foundation was looking for someone to do their thing in the United States, they're based in the United Kingdom, to get things kicked off, they had asked me to join the team, and that was about 4.5 years ago. And since then, I've been growing a team here in the United States to help. I'm in the UK right now, but in the United States, I've been helping them to achieve the mission there.
Awesome. And so that means we first met you at the National Maker Fair in 2016, summer of 2016. That's when we launched the Matrix Creator. And so back then you were just the chief evangelist. Well, not just, the product evangelist.
Yeah. At that time, when I got started, Raspberry Pi Foundation was a very, very small team, and what, they knew that, and we knew that we needed to do work in the United States because Raspberry Pi, the hardware, was really, really popular in the United States. And so it only made sense to really go forth and achieve the mission as well there. And, but that meant I could, at the beginning, it was like, do whatever you think achieves the mission. And so I had a lot of latitude to do whatever it took to get the word out about what we do as a foundation, to get educators trained, to get young kids coding at places like Maker Faire. And I mean, since then, as we've grown a lot as an organization since then. We got to be a little bit more rigorous. And so, we've really like tightened up, and we've said, okay, well, on a year-by-year basis, XYZ is what we want to achieve, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is the resources we need to do it, and the people we need to do it. So, when we met, things were a lot different then, and it was a very popular product. But since then, in the United States, since I met you, we trained over 800 educators to using Raspberry Pi in the classroom. We've grown our clubs programs massively, so we have tons of clubs, after-school clubs all over the country now, and we do those outreach events. We still go to places like a Maker Faire or a STEAM festival or a science and technology fair and get young kids coding and get them making circuits and learning about creating with technology.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, you guys put like so much focus in the like making CS learning fun and focusing on like lower education. But there's like a lot of companies even that use Raspberry Pis in products that they go ship all over the world. Was that like an expected outcome that you guys thought of?
Yeah, I mean, so the original purpose of Raspberry Pi was to get young kids tinkering with technology again. There was a time in the 80s when, in the UK, the BBC Micro was around, ZX Spectrum, people were coding and building and creating the games they wanted to play themselves. And what happened over time was that, technology became more consumer friendly. The sort of the analogy I make, not the analogy, but what I point out when I talk about this is that when I was a kid, if I was on the command line and I was writing the programs I wanted to see, my nieces and nephews, their relationship with technology is around like a sealed off tablet. Mm-hmm. And they are learning a lot from that tablet. My nephew, for instance, knows all the world's flags, and they were reading really, really early because what they were learning from the tablet, but they didn't understand the technology itself. And it was a little bit of a magical slate for them. Mm-hmm. And so Raspberry Pi was kind of created in the response to that trend towards easier to use technology, so that we had technology that was a little bit more hackable, a little bit more open, a little bit more, tinker friendly, and in particular, getting more young kids interested in computer science and getting them to apply to computer science programs with more knowledge from earlier years. So, computer science programs back then, we're getting applicants from kids who were writing code, and now they're getting kids from, applicants from students who may have worked on websites but don't really know how to like compile, let's say, C code or something like that, or really create procedural programs and stuff like that. So it was really created to address that issue, and now all these years in, I think we're seeing that impact.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's another thing where like little kids like your nephew, right, who's learning flags on a tablet, how do you get him to understand, oh, you can do this cool stuff with coding, and this is kind of what's behind your tablet? Like, how do you connect those dots for him and make him understand and enjoy coding,
Yeah, the first thing you do is you put one of these in their hands, right? And you say, go to town. And the interest is, like, I have 8 nieces and nephews, and when they get, and 2 of them are of the right age to start tinkering around with it, and you put it in their hands and you see them start to plug things in and figure out even just the basic things that we take for granted about, like, well, yeah, you have to give it power, right? And so let's find the right power supply. Let's get the keyboard and mouse in there and plug it in. You just put it right in their hands, and it's not about, at this point and at this stage, it's not about learning functions and algorithms and variables. It's about letting them explore, letting them click around, play around. For some of the young kids, it's their first time using a keyboard and mouse, and so they're just kind of getting their way around that. And then, the question that follows next is, okay, you familiarized yourself with this as a computer, but what's cool is that this is empowering you to create new things in this world. So the question is whether you want to solve problems in the world, solve problems that in the things that matter to you, or problems that you see in the world? Or do you want to express yourself creatively with technology? Do you want to make a game? Do you want to build and just make a robot and have fun? It's up to you. And that's an important thing. Is it's self-directed. It's about where the interest is for the young individual. Like, are they interested in science? Are they interested in nature? Well, here are projects that use nature, and let's work together to create that. And that's a critical part to learning. You can't just say, this is a function, this is a variable. Yeah. You've got to really talk about what matters to the individual when they're learning.
Right. Yeah, I think like the connecting it with their interests is really important, but then also breaking down the sort of technicality so that it's like not too frustrating is another kind of difficulty sometimes.
Yeah, and that has to be balanced. And you don't want a learner of any age to be so frustrated they just want to shut it off and throw it away, but you also don't want to spoon feed them, right? Yeah. And everyone's going to have their own threshold for that, and so you have to kind of learners are individuals and they're all different, and so you have to kind of let them struggle a little bit. Right. But when you see them start to like disengage, it's time to give a little bit more help, and finding that balance is what great educators do.
Right. Yeah. So from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, do you generally like train teachers? To use it and then teach with it, but for these kinds of things, do you just kind of leave it to the educators to decide how they're going to teach it to their students, or, yeah.
Yeah, so what we do when we train an educator, our philosophy is educators know what works best in their classroom, and we equip them with the tools for them to be able to bring computing and making with computers into their learning environment. And this includes not just classrooms. It could be a library, it could be a school maker space, it could be a scout group, it could be a museum where they have educational programming like that. We say to them, we're not going to tell you how to teach because that's your expertise, that's what you know, but we can show you this great tool. And we can show you our pedagogy and what we value. What I'm talking about here about letting people explore and create, explore what they're interested in, focusing on project-based learning as opposed to other forms of instruction. And we show them our pedagogy, and they can either apply it the way they see fit in the classroom. They can take what we do wholesale and use it. But we don't intend to be prescriptive. We don't have all the answers. We don't know what works best for every single learner out there. But we can equip educators. What we do is, we do what we do with young people is we put it in their hands, we show them a few tricks, and then we let them loose and we say, go and create something and see how you could apply this in your learning environment.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
And it's easy to do that since the Pi is so it's, you guys have sold over 10 million of them at this point?
25 million now.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay, I'll update my number. Wow, 25 million. Yeah, but what I was saying is you can go online and find the answer to almost any problem you can have with a Pi. And not only any problem, but anything you may want to do with a Pi. Like there's such a big community around that. How have you guys gone about, either shaping the community or just trying to see how best you can help it online?
Yeah. It's the community is critical to the Raspberry Pi's success and the Raspberry Pi Foundation's success. We consider ourselves a community-driven organization. We look to the community for answers. We look to the community for the direction we move in. From the very beginning, when the Raspberry Pi was first announced, and we were offering something that was powerful and affordable, the community built itself up because they saw the potential there. And fostering that community has meant amplifying voices. So someone creates something cool with Raspberry Pi, it's important to amplify that story and get that out. The best way that you can say, the best way to tell someone about what a Raspberry Pi is by showing them what it can do. Show them the actual what you're creating with it, what you're doing with it. And so anytime someone created something, it's amplify that, celebrate that, show that, and let the community just grow from there. And that's been organic growth. The community, the peer-to-peer help, the way people post projects online. I think that it really came down to just the sort of opportunity that you have with such a powerful device at such a low price point. It opened up, I think, people's minds to what was possible and what you could do. And it's about celebrating and amplifying those people who are doing cool things.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy because that organic growth like exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're lucky. We're really, really lucky. I mean, our founders were smart and created a great product. And we're lucky that we have such a passionate community that guides us in terms of not just the product itself, but the things we do. We lean on the community to guide us in terms of the decisions we make, what we do in terms of how we support learners, in the home, in the classroom, library, makerspace, museum experience. That it's a critical thing. It's critical.
Yeah. And it's super nice because of the resources you have online to help people learn and like teach and stuff. Like if a high school students is like, oh, I want to teach middle school kids how to use Raspberry Pis, they can just go to your website, get a bunch of tutorials, and use it to for their little summer camp that they want to do, things like that, which is super cool.
We were lucky. We're lucky because the content is critical. You have to have great content. It has to be correct, it's got to be up to date. It's got to, it's got to be correct. It's got to be fun. It's got to be interesting. It's got to step people through things the right way. And so we have if you go to projects.raspberrypi.org, you'll see all this content. It's everything from just getting started with Raspberry Pi, how to turn it on, how to, open up the web browser. And then it gets really advanced. And so we have a really, really nice big ramp of resources where wherever you are, whether you're advanced or beginner, there's something there for you and something for you to create. And so we have the project site, we have magazines, we have our blog, we have our social channels, we have our YouTube channel. These are all places people are learning as well. Right? More and more young people are learning on YouTube. So we have content there as well where they can learn about all this stuff. And that's the content is one of those things I'm glad that we value a lot and we put a lot of resources into. And we have such a great team of people writing content, developing content, coming up with new fun ideas, creating fun graphics, and finding ways that people can progress through the content as well. Not just about one project. It's about you've done this project. Where do you go from here? What can you do from there? How can you challenge yourself to do more? And we have a great team who's very, very thoughtful about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm sure this is a difficult question to answer, but you've seen so many different projects and use cases for Raspberry Pi, but maybe what's something more recently that surprised you or you were just amazed by?
Oh goodness, yeah, I see a ton. I see a ton of great stuff. There's recently a project where someone had set up a Raspberry Pi with a camera. So if you hold up a vinyl album cover, it'll play music from that.
Oh yeah,
I saw this. Yes.
That's awesome.
That's a great example of connecting different technologies together in a creative way to bring something new into the world. We see different combinations. We see lots of projects that involve either, music playlists, music systems, or retro gaming, or magic mirror kind of things, where it's showing you what's going on in your day. But what's happening is people are recombining them. They're blending in new concepts or new technologies or new content, and it just these sort of these blends and these changes and this remixing is just it's amazing. It's awesome. That's where such amazing creativity comes from.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, you said you kind of touched on it, but you're a maker yourself, right? You've you used to make before Raspberry Pi, you make now after, you've made after Raspberry Pi. How would you say the Raspberry Pi has, change the way you look at making, how you teach making to others, spread the gospel of making and developing?
Yeah, so what the kinds of projects that I was really interested in when I was making, I was interested in physical technology, physical things, buttons and sensors and printers and switches, and I really liked that stuff. But I also liked screen-based interaction. I liked more advanced like web technology and connectivity and image processing, photo capture. And so essentially I was building and creating with tools where I had kind of reached the ceiling of what their capabilities were. And when I saw that I could do physical computing, wiring up buttons, LEDs, switches, and sensors to a full computer that had the capability of doing things like capturing images, saving files, uploading files, keeping time, keeping a database, doing all those things. I saw that there was a lot of potential there. I was creating, before we had tools like the Raspberry Pi, I was hooking up an Arduino to a laptop over USB, and I'd have the laptop do one thing and the Arduino do the other thing, and they would talk to each other, and that's how the interaction was built. But what I really wanted to see was kind of the physical side and the graphical side coming together, and the computer side kind of coming together. And with the Raspberry Pi, it does that.
Right. Have you ever made anything with the Matrix Creator or Matrix Voice?
Not yet. I have one. I haven't created one. So I've before I joined Raspberry Pi Foundation, it was creating full time. I was making full time. After I joined, I don't have as much time to make stuff. We have a thing we do every month called Maker Day. It's about an hour or two that we set aside to create, but an hour or two a month is not enough to really dig deep into those advanced things. Yeah. And so I usually try to use the time to go through our new resources, our new projects on our website. Right. But I would love to. It's such a great tool.
Yeah, we can send you a couple. We can speed up that process. Yeah, no, that's definitely something. I think that's like the trade-off, right? Like you love making, but you don't have the time to as much anymore, and you're empowering other people to make.
And that's the thing. So we have a program here called Coolest Projects, which is it's a fair for young people who create with technology. It's celebrating the young people, whether they created something to solve a problem or they've created something to have fun and express themselves. And we do it in California, in Southern California, and seeing the young people and what they create is the most amazing thing. And it's whenever you sit with a young person. We also, at our office in Oakland, we run a monthly dojo, Coder Dojo, where young kids come into our office space and we sit with them and we mentor them, and they learn how to code with Scratch and Python and all that. And when you sit with a young kid and you open them up to the possibilities of the technology and how powerful it is, there's no feeling can beat that, right? It's so amazing. So when I see my niece or my nephew doing that, or when I see young kids at Coolest Projects or at our dojo doing something like that, when you get to see that, it's so validating. It makes me so happy.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. Mentoring is so much fun, and I don't know, also like humbling at the same time, because you're like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. We think so. We talk about this a lot, that mentorship is a part of learning. Like, some people I think wait too long to think of themselves as a mentor, and I think it's important to take that mentor step sooner, and it helps you to sort of reinforce what you've learned, to validate what you've learned by teaching other people. And it's important that young people can be learning from their peers, and especially for girls. A young girl, in order for girls to feel welcome in STEM, which is an important thing for us to do, they need to see other girls doing it. And so if you're a girl and you're young and you're learning about this stuff, I think taking that step to mentorship is what's going to encourage other girls to code along with you and to stick with it, which is the important thing.
For sure. I think peer mentorship, like telling little kids you can teach your friends, is is definitely super important. And if you ever go to a Coder Dojo, there's the philosophy there, which is ask three and then me, which is the facilitator saying, if you run into a problem, check with your neighbor,
check with another kid, ask around, ask if there's an older kid that wants to help you out there, before you come and ask the facilitator to come and help you out. And even when when it gets to that point where the facilitator of learning is coming over, the educator, for them it's important that they don't just give the answer, but maybe help them get a little unstuck or guide them in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So
mentorship is so important.
Yeah.
So I'm looking through, there's some comments in the live chat for the YouTube stream. Let's see. Some people asking, one person asked, are there any plans to design a Raspberry Pi based on RISC-V?
Not that I know of.
Let's see. One person asked, when will the next Raspberry Pi version come out?
Oh, I wish I could say. Not allowed. We don't announce anything until things are ready to ship. Okay, it's so important. When you got something that's ready to be in people's hands, you let them know about it. And so, when there's something ready, I'm sure you'll hear about it.
Don't get to hear about the R&D, all the half-done projects sitting in the Raspberry Pi office.
And let's see. Well, I guess other people asking more questions about future products.
Sorry. So we do have. I mean, we're releasing stuff all the time. We just released the official Raspberry Pi keyboard and mouse kit, which it's really nice. It's got like a USB hub built into the keyboard. The mouse has got the nice logo on it. The color matches the official case, and a brand new power supply. So the kit's pretty cool. That's a new product that just came out. It also comes with a new book, which is a Getting Started with Raspberry Pi book. So that's a new product, and it's pretty cool. We're hearing good things about it. We've been when we were at Maker Faire, we set up a bunch of Raspberry Pis. We put the new keyboards out, and people were like gaga over them.
Yeah, your booth was full when we came over there.
Yeah. I mean that's great. That's what we want to see. And then when we go there, we want to provide an experience. We want people to really authentically learn something. And so we have people who sit down with us and write their first line of code ever, light up their first LED ever with us, which is really, really cool. And we also get people who are CS engineers who know this stuff and want to sit down and mess around and show their boyfriend or their girlfriend what they do at work and how it's fun.
Yeah. There's really no age for, every time, even now when I light up an LED, even though I've done it many times because Matrix Creator and Voice have so many LEDs, it just makes me happy to see the LEDs light up when I press enter.
Yeah, it's really oh yes, it works.
It works.
Yeah. Lighting. Yeah, there's that moment of the angels going, you did it. Lit up the LED.
The hello world.
That's the hello world of hardware projects, right? And so having people take that first step is a fun thing to do. That's why we do it when people come see us at a public place like a festival or a Maker Faire or something.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, you guys are heavily training educators in order to spread the word of Raspberry Pi. I mean, I saw you guys relatively recently made a new store, a Raspberry Pi store in Cambridge. Do you have any plans for expansion?
I can't say what the expansion plans are, but hey, I think one store is pretty
I mean,
good.
We were very amazed when we saw that. That was great.
I mean, it's awesome. Yeah. It's you don't see hardware stores at all anymore, and so having a hardware store period is just
and Raspberry Pi of all things. I was in Target the other day here in the US, and I saw that they had Raspberry Pis, and I was shocked. Yes. I was so happy to see that.
The thing that I love about that, the fact that there are Raspberry Pis in Target, was when I first got started, we had a small team of us were kind of talking about what would be an unconventional measure of success? How would you know that the Raspberry Pi Foundation has really made it? Or, and I had 3. One of them was Raspberry Pi sold in Target. That was one of them. And the other 2, which have not come to fruition yet, but I still have my eyes on the prize, is Raspberry Pi as a clue on Jeopardy! and Raspberry Pi in a New York Times crossword puzzle. So those are what I'm hoping to see. That's when I feel like we really made it in the United States. But yeah, I'm let's see.
Those are really good ones.
Yeah.
But the target, yeah. So we're getting more people interested in this. It's a broader base of people. Raspberry Pi in the first few years was very much a niche product that was hobbyist focused, and it was people who knew about it. It was people who, at the time, if I asked a kid who was using Raspberry Pi, do you have a family member that is an engineer or codes or anything? Most frequently, the answer was yes. And we're getting to a point now where, no, that's not always the case. It is an educator who doesn't have engineering background who is introducing this to young people, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to Maker Fairs and like the Maker Fair in Miami. We've been to several years, and there's always some kids that come up to us and they know what a Raspberry Pi is. Like, my first question is always, do you know what a Raspberry Pi is? Because then I know where to start them off and talking to them.
Yeah.
And the kids that know it, like, they're like all over it. And I asked the parents if they know anything about it, and they're clueless.
Yeah.
It's great. They're just like, yeah, they know about it. It's a food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's funny, like, over the years since I started working for the Raspberry Pi Foundation and asking people that question, like, have you heard of Raspberry Pi? Are you familiar with Raspberry Pi? And the shift that has happened since then. When we were at Maker Fair at the end of May, when I said, are you familiar with Raspberry Pi? The more frequent response we would get, and especially among that audience, the more frequent response we would get was, oh yeah, I got a few at home doing XYZ, no big deal, right? Yeah. Whereas before it was, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was, yeah, I heard about this. Can you tell me about it? And before that was like, I know about the food, so we've come a long way. A long way.
That's so fun to see that flow, that evolution.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really, really great. And, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I think, in the United States in particular, we've got work ahead of us in terms of getting young kids prepared for jobs of the future, giving young kids the tools of the technology to use. It's important to note that, a young person who wants to, whatever it is that they want to do, technology and coding and computational thinking, these are all going to play into those roles, whether or not you are interested in the technology itself. Right. So, these jobs of the future, no matter what industry they're in, it's not about you're learning computer science for the sake of being a computer scientist. It's a new literacy. You're learning computer science because you want to analyze data that's coming in from a stream, and you're doing a marketing campaign, and you need to be able to look at some interactivity or look at how people behave differently based on different options. So the computational thinking in computer science is pervasive there, and we're gonna rely on that more and more in the future, and we just got to get young kids prepared for that.
Yeah, it's going less from an abstract thing that you maybe learn in school or hear about to something like it's a tool that you need.
Well, when I was in high school in the 90s, I took computer science. I took AP computer science in 1999, and it was only the people who really were like, I'm interested in computers. Right. Computers is where I want to be. That's what I want to do. That was everyone in the class. But AP computer science, really, the makeup should be cutting across different interests, and I don't think we're there yet, but we're getting there in the United States.
I mean, I had a friend in college who was doing pre-med. She wanted to be a doctor, but she was doing her undergrad in CS because I mean, not just she thought it was cool, but she just knows that you're gonna have to have knowledge of programming or software or that kind of thing, kind of no matter what profession you go into. Doctors use so many tools these days that they need to understand how it kind of works on the inside as well, if they're doing surgery with a little robot.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't let people get left behind because of that change that's happening.
Right, exactly.
And so I guess one last question here. So we had met you at Maker Fair, and I'm sure you've heard the news about Maker Fair, Maker Media. It's super sad. We tried making a GoFundMe to see if we could help, but what are your thoughts on how that's going to affect the maker community and how we can keep the fire going of the Maker Fair? Because I mean, when we were at Maker Fair, everybody, there was a lot of people there. There may have been less booths, but there were still a lot of people. They were super engaged. So there's still there's a strong maker community there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sad, and I have a lot of friends who lost their jobs recently because of that. And I was a part of that organization for a few years, and it's a great organization. And the maker fairs are great, and the magazine is great. The maker movement's going to carry on, and I don't think we've heard the last of things like Make Magazine and Maker Fair. Maybe it's not going to come back the way it always was. But as you said, and as you pointed out, like there were a lot of people around us at Maker Fair, a lot of really passionate people. And I know events are hard. I know, I know events are really, really hard, and making them balance out is hard. But we do have a lot of people, and a lot of people who are very, very passionate. So I don't think we've heard the last of it. I think that something will work itself out, and I'm optimistic about it, The maker movement's certainly going to march on. People are still going to create with technology. People are still going to get creative with technology. Technology is only getting better and cheaper. It's only going to open up more possibilities for more people to create with technology. Right. So I'm optimistic. I'm sad now, but I'm optimistic for the future.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've heard, on Twitter, a lot of people have been even if it's not the same maker fair, maybe there'll be sort of an evolution. Maybe there'll be smaller maker fairs. Maybe different companies will do it. Lots of different things.
Yeah, there are so many ways it can happen, and so many ways that people can find each other face to face to share what they create, share what they learn, and they'll be there. They'll be there, and I think it's not the last chapter for Maker Media. I don't think. I think it'll live on in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Let me see if there's any more questions on the chat. One person asks, why are the schematics not open source?
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna do a good job answering that question because I'm not on the engineering side of things. But there's a lot of play there. There's a lot of licensed technology that's involved in creating something like this. There's a lot of sort of complications that come into play when you're making a computer, so it's difficult to do. I will say we try to be as open as we possibly can about the technology, to the extent that we can, that we're able to from a commercial perspective, in order so that we can survive and thrive as an organization, so that IP is protected generally. So it's about finding the right balance there of how open can we be without totally giving away other people's secrets or doing harm to ourselves commercially. Right. It's a tough thing to do. Open source hardware, the definition is a tough definition to meet, it is. And it's really, it would be difficult for us, I think, and this is me speculating, not speaking on behalf of the Raspberry Pi Foundation. I think personally, it's difficult to create a fully fledged desktop computer like we do, but keeping within that definition.
Yeah,
yeah,
makes sense. I mean, we haven't open sourced our hardware either. We share the same ideas.
Again, and this is me speaking personally. Do you it's a tough decision.
Yeah. It's not like a single thing. It's so many variables, like you said. Yeah. You can't just decide all of a sudden. There's lots of people, lots of decisions.
Right, and you've got to think about what if you're trying to have an impact on the world, if you're trying to create something and get it into people's hands, and you're trying to make it as affordable as you possibly can, you're going to make some decisions about that, and you're gonna it's tough. We went our direction, and I'm sure the engineers and our founders will have a lot to say about that, but that's probably the extent of my knowledge of all that.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, well, I don't think there are any more questions on the
yeah.
chat.
One
If you're
person
watching,
is just asking about where we can get support if we're developing projects. Well, Google. You get any Raspberry Pi support there.
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow has a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. I think
Yep, and there's
also,
a Raspberry Pi forum on raspberrypi.org where there's a very active community of people ready and willing and able to help.
Nice.
That's awesome. Okay.
So if I guess we can wait a second if anybody else has another question in the chat.
Yeah, we
but
can just...
you have anything else to say? Any exciting new things happening with the Pi Foundation?
Yeah, we're, I would say check out raspberrypi.org. If you like the technology, I presume a lot of people watching this feed are familiar with us as a technology company. I would say check out everything we do. Look at the website and see everything we do to help young people. There might be people who are tinkering and creating with Raspberry Pi who have a code club or a dojo in their neighborhood where they can go and volunteer and help other young people learn technology. And I want to say also, not learn Raspberry Pi in particular, learn any technology, right? Get them on Scratch or get them learning on Python with whatever they have, help pay that forward and get more young people creating. I think that is an important thing to do. So I think what I would say is just check out raspberrypi.org, check out everything we do. Also, when you go and check that out, you'll see when you buy a Raspberry Pi, this is the sort of stuff you're supporting.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess there's no other questions in the chat, none from our team. So, I guess we'll close it out. Thank you, Matt. It's been great.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, we enjoyed it too. And it's always great because I feel like you are very good at showing how this is a mindset that you need to have, like teaching, like spreading the word, it like motivating, encouraging, and that's really nice to just talk about.
Mindset. It's like you got to start with the right mindset. I love the word.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Okay.
Okay, we're good on questions, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, Matt.
Have a good night. I know it's late there.
Yeah, sleep well. Hope you're over jet lag at this point.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
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 All right. Let's see. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, here. Cool. So
awesome.
now it's still this camera.
We're on this camera. Cool. Wow, that was great. I mean, I've seen all the education stuff that the Pi Foundation has on their website. Fun, I was surprised. It's a really big push. That's their main thing, the education. When I think of Pi, at least, I just think of the board, really.
I mean, it's because we play with the boards all day.
Exactly, yeah.
But when you what do you call that? If you Google Raspberry Pi and the Wikipedia page pops up, the first thing it says, it's a charity foundation with an aim to make learning CS fun for all, especially for younger kids. So it's if you didn't know that at all and you Google Raspberry Pi, foundation, and you see that on Wikipedia, you're like, huh? Because all you do is play with the boards and you're like, oh, this is a cool product, but it's more than a product, which is super cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love the educational push. It's
It's, and I mean, we didn't touch on it too much, but all the commercial companies that use the Pi, just them using it is helping support the huge education push that the Pi Foundation is doing. So,
which is awesome.
it's nice. It goes back in a loop.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're watching and you're you want to learn cool things with hardware, get a Raspberry Pi. You can get a Matrix Creator or Matrix Voice, tack it on there, get some sensor data, get some cool projects going with that. So, Yeah.
Okay, so I guess now we'll go into some announcements. So on June 30th, we're going to be having a meetup with the Hackster Miami meetup group.
Cohort.
Cohort. And so that'll be, up in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, it's up in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
I'll put the link for it in the description. So
if you're local, come see us. We'll be there. We'll have some Matrix creators there, or Matrix voices, some devices there, teaching you guys a little workshop.
With snips.
And then at the end, somebody will win something.
So that's always fun, free stuff.
Additionally, the Snips contest on Hackster.
Yes, we're so close to finalizing.
Yes, so it seems like we'll be starting not next week, but the week after.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. Keep an eye out on our Twitter, Matrix_creator.
Yeah.
We'll be posting a lot of things on that once that starts out.
We'll
we're really excited for you guys
too.
to see it.
Yeah, we'll remember. So you'll get a link under this video in 2 weeks.
Yes. And then additionally, there's this big voice summit. So basically, it's happening at the end of July, right?
22nd to 25th.
Yeah, in New Jersey. Somewhere in New Jersey, close-ish to New York. Newark. There you go. Yeah. And basically, it's a big conference, focused primarily on voice. Like Amazon Alexa is a big sponsor of it, and so we're going to be there within the ARM booth, showing off some cool voice things. And unlike normal demos that we do, we're coming up with some new interesting demos, more focused on voice. So if you're going to be there, go check us out. And if not, maybe check out the website, see if you could go. And lastly, the road
Matrix
test.
Voice Road Test, yeah.
Yep.
So the enrollment period is almost over or just over, either one.
Okay.
But you can still follow the road test and see what all the people come up with, and they'll all post blogs about their road test. So I'll put the link in there anyway in case the enrollment is still going, so people can sign up for road testing the Matrix Voice. And that just means you get a free Matrix Voice to play with and do whatever you want, and then write a blog post about it.
Sounds pretty good to me.
So you should do it, yeah.
Okay, so I guess with that, let's see. There's some questions in here. What coding language would you be able to say would give us a good base? Okay. I'm guessing that was from Matt.
Well, we can also answer that.
Yeah, I mean, well, just from what Matt was saying, like Scratch, Python. Scratch comes on the Pi, at least on Raspbian desktop. I think it comes preloaded, so that's always a good option.
Yeah, and it depends on, I guess, age range as well. You can start with Scratch, which is block coding, or you could try something like Matrix Lite, or, Python, JavaScript, maybe Python better than JavaScript to start with, because it's so Python executes line by line. You could probably get some simple intro, tutorials if you're doing anything with Matrix-related things. Our Matrix Lite libraries are like one line of code to read sensors, one line of code to set LEDs, things like that. So that's also like a fun way to start.
Yeah, and for the Matrix Lite library, you can program it in Python and JavaScript. And was that it? Or what
Ruby is
Ruby? So we're adding
support.
Ruby.
Yeah.
It's a little more complicated right now than the other two, but Python and JavaScript are good to go. So I think that's it.
Then the next person, so that's funny. The next question of that person was, what language do you guys think would be necessary for the Matrix Creator?
Yeah, that's why I said.
I didn't even see the question. That's
okay.
funny. But yeah, exactly. So yeah, JavaScript or Python for Matrix Lite.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's definitely.
And did we ever mention the German magazine?
I don't remember if we mentioned it, but we can mention it.
Yeah, so I just glanced at it and got reminded of it. So a couple weeks ago, well, it was like in mid-May. Actually,
it was actually
May
during
11th.
Fair.
Yeah. There was this German magazine, which I can't pronounce the name of it.
It's a CT.
Okay, CT. Yeah. Magazine for Computer Technique. I don't speak German, so I probably butchered that. But yeah, so basically it's a German magazine. It's apparently a really popular electronics magazine in Germany. They published an article about us, basically using the Matrix Voice with Snips to do some home automation stuff. And the Germans, they love privacy, as everybody should. And so it was focused on Snips and how that's all very privacy oriented, not uploading anything to the cloud. It's all happening locally, and of course using the Matrix Voice for it. Here's the article, and it's all in German, so don't ask me to read it.
Though it does have all the snips, it's SAM commands printed on the magazine, which is so funny. SAM test speaker, SAM test microphone.
Oh yeah, the Wi-Fi stuff, WPA supplicant.
Yeah, so check it out if you want to type commands from the magazine.
Yeah.
They also have online versions, so.
Yeah, so check it out. This was really cool. It was super random, but it was really nice to see. Cool. So I guess if that's it, let me see. There's no other questions in the chat, so I guess we'll close it out. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day. Bye.
Whoa.